I just wanted to be the best role model that I could possibly be for young kids and middle schoolers and high schoolers.
Antoine Davis, born October 3rd, 1998. Over the years, the NCAA has been the best measuring stick used to project how good a talent can be in the NBA, although not perfect, traditional nonetheless. Most of your favorite players have spent some time on that level, minus the few that were blessed enough to skip past it and head straight to the league before the rules change. I say that to ask the question, how does the second total points leader in NCAA history not make the NBA? Not just go undrafted and still made it on the back end, but not even a real opportunity altogether, now 2 drafts removed. It's not a personal question because I do have 3 pretty good ideas why that could be possible, but many basketball fans would like to know how Antoine Davis could fall 3 points shy of putting his name atop a name like Pistol Pete Maravich as the greatest NCAA scorer in history, and no NBA team saw him adding to what they do. Since 12 years old, he's been serious about his basketball journey and had all the tools outside physical gifts to make it happen, like being around some of the great minds at a young age like Coach Bob Knight and his father Mike Davis, who was an assistant on Knight's coaching staff at Indiana, one of college basketball's storied programs, where I'm sure he had front row seats to his share of high IQ conversations about the sport. As a coach, Mike Davis has a .412 and .360 winning record and took the Hoosiers to the NCAA Final Four in 2002 as the head coach. Antoine wasn't a highly sought-after recruit, opting to join his father at the University of Detroit Mercy, immediately becoming a starter and the team's leading scorer and go-to option on offense, averaging 26 points per game as a freshman, being named to the All-Conference First Team, the first freshman in the Horizon League to do so since Gordon Haywood, and made more three-pointers as a freshman than Steph Curry. As he became more of a facilitator, he began to understand he could give up a few points to keep his teammates involved as much as the team could afford, usually one of the worst teams in the league, so needed him to be as aggressive as he was. Every year since, he's made the All-Conference First Team, averaging over 20 shots per game in his college career. Because that career was during a global pandemic, he was granted an extra full season in college, which meant another opportunity to break Pistol Pete's record and another chance to show NBA teams his value. Unfortunately, no team saw the potential and all passed on him, leading to going undrafted, playing in the G League, and in 2024, uncertain where his path leads him from here. What happened? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Antoine Davis is a 6'1" point guard shooting guard from Bloomington, Indiana that grew up a coach's son that seemed on a path destined to become a basketball player. His dad, Mike Davis, homeschooled him from the 7th grade all through high school, with AAU ball his only outlet to top competition. By his senior year, he was rated a 3-star recruit, averaging 23 points per game, but it wasn't enough to secure an offer from the major Division I college programs, so he committed to the University of Houston, where his career, at least initially, would have been filled with uncertainty. He decided to walk on at Detroit Mercy, where his dad had just took the head coaching job. With his father as coach and a team that hadn't made the NCAA tournament since 2012, at least he knew that opportunity to play his game was guaranteed and all he'd need to become the college scorer he became. Stunt number 1, an undersized volume shooter. The biggest issue that immediately stands out about Antoine Davis when watching his game and then looking at his stats is noticing he's really a shooting guard trapped in a 6'1" frame, so categorized as a point guard on the next level. As mentioned, he's the second all-time leading scorer in all NCAA history, so you could imagine the kind of mentality he'd have to be able to say that. The problem with that is, none of that matters if it doesn't translate to the NBA. The biggest reason it doesn't in his case is these days every team has a handful of guys on it that if you give them 25 shots a game, They could all produce nice averages, but then what does that do to help the overall team in the end? In college, that's extremely possible, especially when in the perfect situation to do so. First off, his dad was the coach of the team all 5 of his college seasons, giving him the green light to chuck over 20 shots a game since he stepped foot on campus. In fact, he and Pete Maravich, the top 2 scorers on the college level, have that in common, as Pete played for his dad as well, allowing him to shoot almost 40 shots a game to average more than 40 points a game over 3 years. Davis's attempts don't rival that, but over 20 shots a game in today's era, 11 of them threes, may be every player's dream situation, but it could backfire when it comes to translating to the NBA, because it shows you more than likely will need a situation that replicates that on the next level to continue being elite at what you do. I think scouts perfectly understood that at 6'1" and a volume shooter needing 20 shots to average 25 points is not encouraging nowadays as it may have been back then when the NBA was much younger and in need of that kind of contribution. Allen Iverson being the last I can remember being a high volume shooter at that size that got the same opportunity to be the focal point immediately in the NBA. Now that so many guys on one team can put the ball in the basket and players at his position being much bigger, a 6'1" point guard needing that much opportunity is nearly impossible. Teams simply didn't need that, and it made him easy to pass up. Stunt number 2, spending 5 years in college. Another important factor in being selected above the hundreds of prospects every year in the draft or not is age. Sports in general is very tricky because how old you are affects every opportunity you get, because in that industry your body is your number 1 tool and perception of age is held in high regard. A guy can be 31 years old and shoot lights out or jump out the gym and would still lose out on an opportunity because another guy is younger than him and maybe taller and a bit more raw, but because he's still at an age you can mold him, he's given the potential tag and selected over the actual better player. Antoine Davis, who was a part of the 2023 NBA draft, is only a few weeks younger than Trae Young. Young has been in the NBA 6 going on 7 seasons now, and Davis is only 1 year removed from the draft. Speaking of perception, I always tell young hoopers, you have to be mindful of when is the right opportunity to leave if you ever get the opportunity in sports to turn pro, because the older you get, the easier it is for someone younger who isn't as good to be given your opportunity, one that may never come back around. The NBA sees a guy in today's era that spends his entire eligibility in college as actually a negative. Like, why did it take you 5 years to finally be ready for the draft? Back then, it was normal for players to spend multiple years in college. Now, if you aren't one and done or leave after your sophomore season, you'd have to be really good to be looked at as a top prospect. It's not about being good at that point, it's about potential, and being 24 years old, just now being ready for the NBA, along with everything mentioned in stunt number 1, gave Davis limited opportunity. Because he played in the pandemic era, which gave players, if they chose, an extra full college year of eligibility, he got 5 instead of 4 years and used them all. A benefit in college because it gave him a shot at history because he was much older than the other eligible players. Stunt number 3, too many areas of non-factor. For me, as a scout, I would factor this in just as much as I do potential. If you took away the player's main area that he provides an advantage for the team, what else does he bring to the table? I truly believe professional scouts look at it the same. If you took scoring away from Antoine Davis, which is easy to, seeing his size, age, and lack of opportunity now that teams have so many options to score the ball, what good is he to your team? You have to have other skills that translate at a high rate, or it's just difficult. Or you have to have an elite skill that can place you with a guy that can score. It's why a player could shoot 42% from 3 in college, but average 13 to 15 points and be drafted higher than the NCAA's second all-time leading scorer. If you take scoring away from him because your team already has a LeBron James or a Kevin Durant, eventually teams will double them and they'll need a guy they can count on to be an efficient deep shooter. Scoring is the #1 commodity, making what else you do very important. Davis at 6'1", skinny, non-athletic, and a mindset to score at all times doesn't fit well on literally every NBA team, even as a bench bucket. He just doesn't give you much of anything else and is why he had to settle for a G League spot for the Trailblazers affiliate, where he performed well, but still not enough, showing he can either be an elite scorer or help in other ways. All in all, who knows the future? Davis can still get an opportunity down the road if timing permits. He was still a great college player that achieved a lot, but for these reasons, his growth is being stunted. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.